Hey, what's up? Welcome or welcome back if you're not new to the channel. Now, contrary to popular belief, I'm not Superman, and at times I do get sick. So, right now I'm coming down with a cold, but uh, the worst days have already passed. Anyway, if you tuned into to the last video, I previewed a snippet of the drawing I was working on. I'm currently working on a series titled Headgear, and I showed you guys a small snippet of what I was working on. And in that video, I had promised to show you another piece. I was working on two pieces, the headgear piece, then another piece I was working on is this one. And I did it in the blue pen, the blue big pen, basic blue big pen, and yeah, it came out really nice. And because of that, I've been planning to do smaller drawings while I'm working on the other series. Smaller drawings, mostly themed around concepts. It's more of conceptual pieces, and here I have just a piece that I started working on yesterday, and you guys can see a small snippet. But anyway, for the headgear piece, I chose boxing. I think boxing is a really interesting sport. So I drew the head protection thing they wear. It has like sponges and stuff. They wear it when they're training so that they can spar carefully, not injuring each other. And I chose boxing because I've been thinking about getting into sparring, boxing that is, and not for competitive reasons, but I think it would be a really nice skill to have, to be able to defend yourself when anything happens. Not that I'm anticipating a scuffle, but if anything happens, then you have that ability to protect yourself. The drawing was really interesting because I worked on leather. I've never done leather as extensively as I did in that piece, and yeah, it came out great in my opinion. And yeah, let's without further ado, let's get into the creation process.
So, if you've been following me for any duration of time, you know that I rarely, if ever, document the beginning stages of the drawings that I work on. This is mainly because I try to figure out the colors, the grading, the actual scale of the drawing that I'll be covering, and just to get a feel of how the drawing should go. And I find it quite intimidating to have the camera on during that specific first phases of a drawing. Not to mean that I am faking the process, but it kind of relieves the pressure of just feeling like you can make mistakes without feeling like you're being watched. So actually when I started, I made a mistake in the colors because, as I said, I have never drawn leather extensively, and from the reference I could pick up that the surface was really like it had areas where it's shiny and areas where there's a lot of reflection, and I didn't know how to tackle that. So for me, I use Pelican colors uh, mixed with Faber-Castell and Stidler. And out of those three brands, I didn't have the correct color for the leather, so I had to mix the color. And for the mix, initially I thought mixing browns only would suffice, and that was not the case. So if you look at the first top part of the drawing, it's slightly different from the rest of the piece because I hadn't figured out the colors, and so I had to take some time off recording, I mean, and figure out the colors. And eventually I found that I needed a blue, then the browns, and red and black and white to blend everything together. So it was quite an interesting lesson on color theory that I had to figure out. So if you follow me on social media like TikTok and Instagram, I made a video and I was talking about how scale really matters when you're making art, and I think it's something that I've mentioned before. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on YouTube, but I basically showed how when you use a larger scale, like for this drawing, I did around 50 centimeters wide, and for the height, it's about 70, I think it's 70 centimeters. So to put that into context, 70 centimeters, it's almost a meter. So that's actually a large piece of paper and a large drawing, and the result in the end, it looks interesting just from the scale perspective. Leave aside the details, leave aside the coloring, just the sheer fact that it's large, it kind of attracts people to the piece that you've made. And I was basically just enlightening people or aspiring artists, because I remember when I started and I showed you guys the sketchbook tour, I was really working on small drawings, and part of that was because of the intimidation of I had never done a large drawing, and I wasn't sure if I had the correct skill set to be able to tackle such a drawing. But when I shifted my mindset and decided to scale up, I noticed that people would be interested in my pieces, and also me as the artist, I just found the larger drawings to be more interesting to look at, and I didn't jump right into the large pieces like this one, where it doesn't even fit on the in the working space that I have. I improved on the size gradually. I started with like A3. A3 is immediately after A4. So a lot of people have noticed, if you are not an artist, people think that the naming system for the papers is conventional, meaning like if you go from 1 to like 4, some people think that when you say A4, it's larger than A1, but it's actually reverse. So when I started with A4, then I improved to A3. I stayed in A3 for like to say 4 months. Then it didn't feel enough, so I moved quickly to A2, where I was still experimenting. Remember, at the time I hadn't found the right paper that suited what I was looking for. So I stayed at the A2 level for another close to a year. Then after experimenting with different papers, that's when I stumbled into A1. And as I mentioned in the sketchbook video, I was mainly attracted to the ivory board for the colors. but then it was too smooth. And I want to say, if I was using ivory for this piece, I wouldn't be able to get the look, because this paper that I'm using, it has that, it allows me to make mistakes, especially for an experimental piece like this, where I'm not sure about the colors. I can experiment and I can layer over my errors, unlike the smooth papers. But anyway, I know I went into a small rant there, but the main takeaway of this is, if you're an artist aspiring, I would highly encourage you to look for a large piece of paper, the texture which you prefer, and just give it a shot. Just try doing your art on a larger scale, and I'm pretty sure that you'll see a difference in the way you perceive your work and the way people perceive it. You don't have to necessarily go as large as I do, because I have plans of going even larger. This is not the final like step for me, but for that to be implemented, I need to improve my setup, get a larger table, and then I can do even larger drawings. But if you're just starting out, I would really want you to try out the different sizes of paper and see what suits you best. So if you're paying attention to the video, I hope I'm not distracting anyone with my rambling, but if you're paying attention, if you see that there's a lot of blending involved, and I'm using the most valuable tool in the arsenal for this drawing, uh, was the craft knife or the utility knife. I used it in the sneaker drawing, if you watched that video, and it was really important in this one because I was able to get the fine details. I was able to pull them using that knife, and were it not for that knife, I'm not sure if I would have achieved the level of detail that I did for this piece. So that's another thing that I would encourage the budding artists to try and get the utility knife or the craft knife or whatever it's called in your area where you reside, and just give it a shot. Look up tutorials on how to use it, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it as a valuable tool in your arsenal.
You know, I'd really want to reach a place where I don't have to sign my drawings so that I can prove I'm the one who has completed them. I want to reach a point where I can, like, my art style is unique and recognizable so that people can see pieces and they can immediately know that I'm the one who drew the piece. But until then, I just have to keep on signing. What I really like about this piece is how I was able to capture the overall form, because if you look at it, it kind of feels like you can touch it. It feels fluffy, it feels like it's actual sponge, and I think that was what I was looking for, and I'm really glad that I was able to nail that, and also the details came out really nicely. But anyway, thank you for tuning in, and if you like this piece or you don't like it for some reason, if you're a weird nigga, comment down below and stay tuned for the upcoming piece in the series. I've already started it, and yeah, I'll see you then.